Hi, thanks so much for being here. So today we have everything that we read for the month of September. And so I have my daughter with me in this video. She's in 5th grade. And so we're going to start with her books. And so I told her to do kind of like a rough rating where she puts them in order. So we're starting with, she enjoyed all of these books because she's kind of like me. If she does not enjoy a book, she doesn't finish it. We like to just read what we love. So all of these books she really liked, but she just put them in order. So we're starting with her least favorite, yet it's still a very great book. Okay, so the first one is The Forgotten Five Map of Flames by Lisa McMahon. And you love me, Lisa McMahon. You just didn't enjoy this one as much as some of her other work.
Yeah.
But you still liked it.
I've read two other things by her. The Unwanted series and Clarice the Brave.
Okay, so what is this, a fantasy or adventure? What?
What? I mean, they're supernatural, but there's nothing else other than that.
Okay.
Other than like having powers.
Okay, so it's about a group of kids.
Yeah, 5 supernatural kids. Their mother's like she's missing, so
They're siblings?
No, they're siblings, and they try to find their mother, but their parents all they're all kind of like
Connected?
Yeah.
Know each other? Okay, so it's kind of like a mystery a little bit?
No, they know. Well, they have no idea how to say words, and it's like kind of like a little bit aloof, kind of like.
Okay, so but you liked it.
Yeah.
Okay, so next is a mystery. This is Stuart Gibbs' Space Case. This is a series. He has a lot of different series. He has like animal books, spy books. This is a space series. So this is a moon-based alpha novel. Didn't you finish this in one day?
Yeah,
I
finished this yesterday.
Okay, so this is kind of like even though, like I said, it's like one of her least favorite out of this group, it's still a very good book. You were so interested in it that you read it all in one day.
Yeah.
So says a lot. Okay. Yeah. Is this the first one in the in the space series?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the first one. I think it's a trilogy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Each one's like
each different type of his books. Okay. So what was this about?
So it's about this kid who lives on the moon, and one of his crew dies, but he doesn't think it's an accident, so he tries to look into it, and nobody believes him.
So he's trying to solve this mystery, and that's what most of his books are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, next one. Oh, and I'm sorry I forgot to say, so you read 8 books. Did we already say that? She read 8 books this month. Okay.
Yeah. This is The Foul Twins 1. It's like kind of the second by Ian Colfer. It's the second. So there's 2 series, The Honest Foul and then The Foul Twins. So it's a very loose story, but basically it's about these 2 twins, and they find a toy troll, and like these other people want to take it for their own reasons, and then it's like they're sort of trying to like escape and like get away, or
so it has a lot of adventure.
Yeah.
And it's fantasy because you said you have like a troll
and a fairy.
Magical. So you really liked it.
Yeah.
Okay. Another one dealing with magic is Kelsey Murphy and the Academy for the Unbreakable Arts by Erica Lewis.
So it's about this girl, Kelsey. She finds out that she's a pulse elemental, which means she can control all 4 of the elements, and she's sent to this academy, the Academy for the Unbreakable Arts, and she tries to like figure out who she is and save the lands of summer.
Okay, and so like most middle grade that she reads, almost all of these are series.
Yeah.
And this is the first one. You said you really want to read the second one.
Yeah, it's very new, so there's only 2, but I think there'll be more. I'm pretty sure.
So the next one is a trilogy, and here's the first 2.
Yeah.
So Renegades is the first one, right?
Yeah, and Arch Enemies. So
And it's by Marissa Meyer. So why don't you just... So she read both of these. This one's from the library, and then this one we own. And so why don't you just talk about the first one, since we don't want to spoil anything. But yeah, she likes... And you're very eager to read the third from the library. I'm going to request it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So...
And I think... I'm sorry. Almost all of the books we've talked about so far, I believe, are middle grade, but I think these are YA.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Marissa Meyer, she writes
YA, okay.
Yeah. So, unlike a lot of books, the lead character is actually kind of like the villain.
Oh.
She lives in a world where there's renegades, which they're basically superheroes. They have all sorts of random powers, from looking like a crystal to... like being able to draw things to life.
So is it kind of like science fiction-y? It's not fantasy like you...
I don't really know.
It's just like...
Yeah. It kind of reminds me of like cyberpunk, but like...
Yeah.
It's just like the feeling that you get when you're reading it. Like...
Okay.
Yeah.
So she wants to continue this series, and she picked this out actually at Half Price Books. I never had even heard of it. And now she is also reading another book by her, which we'll talk about at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next book
is my second favorite, Inheritance, by Christopher Paolini.
This is also YA.
Yeah. I've talked about like the main goal of the series as a whole.
This is an inheritance cycle?
Yeah. So it's about this boy, Aragon. He becomes a dragon rival, which like he bonds with his dragon, Saphira. And he's basically trying to defeat King Galbatorix, and
so it's fantasy. It's like a lot to do with dragons, and this is the fourth in the series.
Yeah.
Or fifth? Sorry.
Fourth.
Yeah, fourth. Okay. So you really love his writing, right?
Yeah.
He's one of your favorite authors. So yeah, so she's continuing this, and is there a next?
Yeah, I think he's coming out with one. It seemed at the end of the series. It was like but I don't really know.
So her favorite out of all of the books she read this month was
Wings of Fire Legends, Darkstalker. So this is about
by 2E.T. Sutherland.
This is about one of the dragons that was featured in Wings of Fire. He's like a legend. He was like famous because he was an animus, which means he had magic and he was a mind reader, and he could fortune tell, or like he could see into the future. And it was like about his story gone into more detail. They talk about him in Wings of Fire, but this is just going to really detail
about his character.
Yeah.
So there's another. They came with these little cards too that you could play like a game. You said.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's another Legends, right?
Yeah.
Of this. So she wants that one. She wants to read the next one. But Wings of Fire was like one of your favorite series of all times, and this is like a standalone that goes with it, right?
Yeah.
About a character. Okay, so this was her favorite book of the month, you guys. Now she's going to share what she's currently reading, and then I'm going to talk about my books, which is a mixture of middle grade and like adult fiction.
This is Sindel by Marissa Meyer.
So she'll wait to talk about it if she likes it in our October reads, but this is what she's currently reading, and this one is very much more like sci-fi, like you said, like cyber punk or like science fiction.
And it also has a little bit of fairy tale mixed in.
Yeah, because it's based on Cinderella.
Yeah.
And then you have the other ones. So yeah, so this author she's really enjoying, and now she's reading this. Okay, so now I'm going to share the books that I read for the month of September. Okay, so I technically read 5 books during the month of September, but I finished 2 right at the very end of August, like the last couple days of August, and I didn't talk about those, I don't think, in my August wrap up, so I'm gonna do that now. So yeah, okay, so the first book that I finished at the end of August, but like I said, I didn't talk about it, I think I was currently reading it when I made that video, is The Woman in the Purple Skirt. And I'm really bad pronouncing names, but that's her name, Natsuko Imamura. It's a Japanese novel that was translated, and this was just one of those books that just caught my attention. I've been really liking Japanese authors lately and wanting to read more of their work, and this is like a very strange book. I gave it 5 stars. It really kept my interest. It's a pretty short novel. It's only 200 and something-ish pages. Basically about this woman, you know, in the purple skirt. And basically this woman in the yellow cardigan is watching her. And she's obsessed with her, the woman in the purple skirt. And it's all about like loneliness and kind of like obsession. And you kind of like are going along with the character the whole way to figure out like why is she so obsessed with this woman in, you know, the purple skirt, and so why also is she like this. And so you get to like, it's kind of like a character study. It's very much literary fiction, very much a character study. It's like it's just very strange in a good way. It's very hard to describe. If you're looking for a read that's just kind of like a little bit different but yet kind of slow paced and kind of strange, then this might be for you. I don't know. This is kind of a hard one to recommend, but yeah. So I rambled enough. And the cover is gorgeous. Okay, another one that I finished at the end of August, I believe I didn't share. This one was Big Tree by Brian Selznick. So this one is a middle grade, unlike that one that was adult fiction. So Brian Selznick, if you are familiar with him, his work is like almost just like half, if not more, like based on illustration, telling the story through illustration. So this one is about two seeds who are brother and sister, and you're with them from the beginning to where when they go out into the world from their mother, you know, from the tree and from their mother tree, and then you get to find out like what their life is going to be. But yet this book was a little bit more like scientific and abstract and almost like a bigger picture of like the world. I thought it was going to be a little bit more literal, and it's not a good or a bad thing, I don't think. I think it's just for me as a reader, I thought it'd be like a little bit more literal of a story about the two seeds, and it kind of is. I don't know how, like, I felt like this one would be a hard one for me to talk about. Also, the illustrations are like a lot looser and kind of more like, they're just not as like tightly detailed and wrapped up as like The Invention of Hugo Cabret, which is one of my favorite books of all time, and by Brian Selznick for sure. The illustrations, I guess because you're dealing with seeds, it's just they're very naturey, of course, but it's just like the way things are done. I would say the illustrations, I think, are a little bit different than in Hugo. And the story, I really enjoyed it. I read it like in 1 day or 2 days, and like I just didn't connect with it as much as like Hugo, of course. And the seeds, their journey was to me like a little bit more like nature based. I don't know, maybe I was just looking for a little bit more like conversation in the end or dialogue or something. I don't know, like it, but I loved it. Okay, so another book that I read technically in the month of September from start to end, I don't have with me, but it's the same author. It's Brian Selznick. I apologize, but I had to return it to the library and someone checked it out. It is Wonderstruck. I don't have it with me, but I gave it 5 stars. I give all of his books 5 stars, but pretty much Hugo's like 1,000 stars, but I don't have it with me. But Wonderstruck, I enjoyed it, but I didn't really connect with it as much as Hugo. Basically it's you know, it's a story about this boy who is looking for he wants to find out who his father is, and he's kind of having a hard time, and then he travels and he finds out all these things about his past. But then there were just some things like about the characters, not the characters, but maybe like his mother. I didn't really connect, like it kind of like triggered me like as a reader, and that's probably why, even though I gave it 5 stars, like it's not like a book I would probably want to reread, Wonderstruck. I just didn't really, but that's just like a personal thing about how things that basically the protagonist was not informed about. Like to me, it just wasn't right. And I don't want to say what it is to give too much away, but it was definitely interesting. I wanted to find out what the end would be and things like that. So enough rambling about that. Wonderstruck. But next, okay, so I put these books loosely in order of my least favorite to my very favorite, and my least favorite was Charles Bukowski, Post Office. Now, it's my least favorite, but I still really enjoyed it because I don't read any books that I don't like. I just DNF them, And this book I definitely finished, and this is an adult fiction. This book is just not for everyone. It's very hard to recommend. It's very raw. It's very gritty. I think that I read him when I was in college. He's a poet and he's a novelist. His novels, like especially Post Office, comes off, it reads much more like short stories. Also, it's like very autobiographical. I've watched a lot of interviews with him. He actually did work at the post office. So this is all about his life, basically like working at a post office and like dealing with all these like mundane, ridiculous things. Well, his character, he writes from a character's Hank, I think it's called, his name's Hank, point of view. And basically all like just the ridiculous stuff that, I'm sorry, Henry, not Hank, Henry. He just writes like all of the ridiculous things that like a typical, like, I don't know, like some corporations are like that. Cause like, you know, I've had a lot of different jobs. And so it's like, it's kind of like the movie Office Space, where it's like you're dealing with like all these like ridiculous like oversights and just people like watching everything you do and like nitpicking everything you do, and just the ridiculousness of life and having to like be in that environment and feeling just like whatever. And it's just like, also it's like his day-to-day like things that he does when he gets home, and like, yeah, he is like his character, and I don't know how he is in real life because I've never met him, of course, but like he's like a womanizer. And so a lot of people might not like that, like, but I oversee that, because to me, I don't have to like everything a character does. Like, I can read unlikable characters. So, but they're like I said, it's really raw and gritty. But if you get past that, it's really funny. Like, there was like so many parts. I love the way he interprets the way humanity is and can be, about like, you know, like the rough and raw edges of people, and like not liking people and being honest with yourself about that, and not having to pretend. It's very like, it's like anti-pretentious. It's like he's like a working man, and it's just, yeah. So like, I don't know what else to say about it, but other than to say that I enjoyed it. His next book I read was definitely, I think this is like middle grade. Tuck Everlasting. You guys, I never read this book. This is like one of those super popular books that a lot of young readers get to, you know, in you know, in elementary school or middle school, and I just never read it. Well, actually, I take that back. I thought it was older than what it is. Oh wait, no. Yeah, 1975. Okay. So, I read it and I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It's a very quick read, you know, at only 140-ish pages, almost. Let me read the back, because this is a very hard book to talk about without giving it away. If you guys aren't familiar with it, is eternal life a blessing or a curse? That is what young Winnie Foster must decide when she discovers a spring on her family's property whose water grants immortality. Members of the Tuck family, having drunk from the spring, tell Winnie their experiences watching life go by and never growing older. But then Winnie must decide whether or not to keep the Tuck secret and whether or not to join them on the never-ending journey. Okay, so it gives a good amount of information away on the back, so I didn't want to spoil anything good. Now, that aspect of it as a reader, when you read that about when, you know, she finds out that there's this water that you can drink and like never age and never die. As a reader, it really like gets philosophical, and that's what I really liked about this. Like, for me, as a philosophical question, it really made me think about that, you know, think about immortality and think about what decision I wanted her to make as like the protagonist, as me reading what she was going to do, what I thought she was going to do. If I was going to have disappointments about her decision, what decision I would make, even though I know it's not like realistic. But yeah, it was just kind of fun. And I think I'm definitely having my daughter read it. It's going on her book shelf for 5th grade. So I hope she'll be able to, I definitely want her to read it. So the next one is a classic for young readers, and it is Little Lord Fauntleroy by Frances Hodgson Burnett. So I am just on a Frances Hodgson Burnett roll. I really, really, really loved The Secret Garden and A Little Princess, all new to me this year. And then I just had to read the third one, which is, like, I think her third most popular book. I think she has some other ones, I'm not sure. Okay, so this is an illustrated copy. I'm going to link everything also for you guys. Okay, so this one, unlike the other two I mentioned, it's a boy protagonist, little Lord Fauntleroy. Of course, you guys realize that from the title. Okay, so he, let's see, this one of course doesn't have like the back synopsis. Basically, how can I talk about this book also without giving too much away? Okay, basically this little boy, he finds out, so he's basically living like I don't know if you call it like modest, like he's definitely not poor, but he's definitely not like rich from the beginning. Of course, he's like, okay. So then it's like similar to her other books with the theme of he is living like this modest kind of sweet little life. He's so sweet. He calls his mommy dearest. That just, I loved it. Like it was so cute that he just loves his mother so much. He calls her dearest. And so he basically lives this, I don't know if you call it modest, like an average life. He's not poor, but he's not rich. And he is faced with a new change where he discovers that he's like an heir, where he becomes like a lord, or he is becoming a lord. So it's all about that, the journey of his life changing, you know, and moving from New York, where he lives, to England, and about the changes and how he treats people along the way. Again, like all of the theme in her work, where it is like, you know, like just because like you're rich or like you're wealthy, you come from a wealthy family, doesn't mean you need to look down on people and you're not better than them. And definitely like she doesn't appreciate that. And she has her characters be, all of her characters are very humble. They're very kind. They're very warm. And, or they learn that, but he's just very sweet. I don't think he's like too sweet. I thought it was very refreshing to see this little boy treat everyone around him and his mother so kindly. And then also they have like, you're dealing with other characters in the book who aren't as like, you know, pleasant as he is, but then like it's like the things that the growth or whatever, maybe mainly one character. And so yeah, so it's just a lovely book. It's a pretty quick read, you know, at, let's see, like a little bit over 220-ish pages. And I recommend it to like a lot of different people. I hope my daughter's going to read it. She read The Secret Garden, and A Little Princess is on her list. But okay, so I really, really, really enjoyed it. It's really sweet, and it'll definitely be on my reread list very much. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Prince. Let's go crazy. So, of course, this book has nothing to do with Prince, but I really love those lyrics to that Prince song, and I thought I'd share it. Okay, so Beloved by Toni Morrison. This book, it's just, wow. It's so deep. It's so sad. And it has the beautiful writing of Toni Morrison that she can do no wrong so far by me. I love, love, love the way she writes. She is like the closest thing I've come to the definition of an artistic writer, poet. She is a poet, I believe, also. And so, and it comes through in her work. Not all authors have this beautiful prose and this beautiful way of writing. Some authors are good and important in many different ways. She has all of it. She is very good at dialogue. She's very good at beautiful prose. She's very good at telling a story. This book weaves the future and the present. Okay, let me stop rambling and say basically, again, this book is hard to talk about, I think, without giving away spoilers. That's why I want to read the back. Basically, let's see. Setha, I think it's Setha. It's like S-E-T-H-E is the main protagonist. I think it's pronounced Setha. I heard in an interview, but I'm not sure. Setha, maybe its protagonist, was born a slave and escaped to Ohio, but 18 years later, she's still not free. She has too many memories of sweet home, the beautiful farm where so many hideous things happen. And her new home is haunted by the ghost of her baby who died nameless and whose tombstone is engraved with a single word, beloved. Okay. I don't want to give too much away, and it's very hard to talk about this book without giving away spoilers, but when she says that Setha, hopefully I'm pronouncing her name right, is still not free after she escaped slavery, is that the truth? Like, she is tormented by the decisions she made when she became, if you want to like call it, free. Like, when she escaped from slavery, she made some really hard decisions, and she's basically like literally and physically haunted, not only mentally but physically haunted by those decisions. And it's a family story where you learn a lot of stuff about like her mother-in-law, her, you know, the father of her children, like her friends, her like people who went through slavery with her, and like it's just like very like layered. There was a lot of back and forth with the past and present that at some times I had to go back and read a few pages where I was a little bit confused. But the writing was so good, I was involved from the start to the end. The way she writes things, there's a lot of raw things in here. There's a lot of very, very sad things in here. If you're, it's a dark read, and I knew that going in, so that was fine for me. I'm so glad I finished it, and now I can move on. Now I plan to read one of her next novels. I read The Bluest Eye. So yeah. So the book I'm currently reading is from the library, and it is called Earthlings. So this is the same author, so Sayaka Murata. This is a Japanese author, the same author who wrote Convenience Store Woman. That's how I found this book, because Convenience Store Woman is one of my favorite literary fiction books that I've read in the past year. And it's just also a very strange book. Okay, so this book is also very strange. I'm gonna like hold talking off about it until like I finish it. I'll hopefully be able to talk about it in my October reads, because I'm a little bit less than halfway. But just to give you a little tiny brief thing, basically it's about, so basically it's like, it says it pushes the boundaries of our ideas of social conformity. And basically it's this child who does not fit in with her family. Her parents favor her sister, and her best friend is a plush toy hedgehog named, it's like, I don't know how to pronounce it, Piyyut, who talks to her. He tells her that he has come from a different planet and is on a special quest to help her save Earth. So basically, I think that she's like coming up with this magical, like out kind of like not realistic scenario with this little creature, like because she's like, it's like almost like disassociation, because there's a lot of trauma in this book. There's a lot of darkness. It's very sad already. It's very dark and raw. But I think that like there's a lot more that goes behind these traumatic events that I want to like dig deep into, because I love her writing about like all the commentary she makes on society, just like Convenience Store Woman. So because of Convenience Store Woman, I definitely want to finish it. I don't know if I would have read this book first, if I would have like wanted to stick with it as much, but because I appreciate her writing from that other book, I'm definitely like sticking in there, even though there's some really, really, really raw, kind of like disturbing things. But I'm going to talk about that next time. But yeah, so thank you guys so much. I love for you to subscribe if you haven't. I love sharing the books that my daughter and I read. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Take care.